Hi, welcome back to this YouTube channel. Today I'm playing a little bit of Dirt 5. And so far I've actually played like 30 levels. This game's actually pretty fun. You wouldn't think so, but it's not super simulation or anything. It's just fun to play. It's I wouldn't really call it like Cruising USA or anything like that. There's more to it than that, but it's just really nice graphics and fun to just lay back on the couch and play. It's not really intense. Like some racing games, they get you down to every last corner is like a big deal. And this one, it's true, it's still competition, but it's just a lot more easygoing. And it tends to be a really good time filler if you're just waiting for a half an hour, maybe you ordered food or something, and then this game fills in that time. And it can be very enjoyable. It's fun. It's a fun game. You can see I just got in front of everybody. It does have first-person view. You can get in the cockpit or the driver's seat. So sometimes I play like that. The chase camera can have a lot to do with which way I play. If the chase camera gets weird, a lot of times it makes me not want to play that game in that way. It depends. Different games, the chase cam acts differently, and then you get a feel for playing a certain game with a certain type of chase cam, and if the next game you play doesn't have that same feel to it, it can really screw up the third-person view from behind the vehicle. Because sometimes the cam will swing a little bit with the car, and just exiting turns feels totally different than one that's locked directly behind the car. And they do it different from game to game. There's really no standard. So some games I actually have to get in the driver's wheel and get from the front seat view. But I played this game on the Xbox One X like I am right now. I'm actually streaming this to my computer. But I have it on the computer also, and it plays really well. I get it darn close to 4K 60. I think I knocked a couple settings down. And it looks really nice. It looks pretty darn good here on the Xbox too. Very comparable. The game feels the same. But it makes me think, how would it look on a 3080? A lot of these newer games are maxed out already on lower end hardware. If you had a 3080, you'd be able to go 120 frames in 4K or maybe 1440p. But the experience, it's just a lot more money, and I'm sure they're nice to have. Anyone who has one is probably chuckling to themselves right now. But man, what a bad time to buy a 3080 right now. They're like $2,500, and you can sit around and hunt for one, but by the time you spend a lot of time hunting for it, if you paid yourself $15 to $20 an hour, even $10 an hour, you'd probably be able to afford one if you just got a job or worked more hours. Most people have a job, but let's say you work a little bit of overtime and spend that money just giving it over to somebody who has one and is willing to let it go for a price. It would probably be cheaper. It would take less time because unless you have a line on what's going on in the market, you know who's getting them and when, it can be really hard to land one. And I can tell you that for sure because of the price. Supply and demand dictate these types of things, and if these things are going for $1,500 and $2,000 and $2,500, then it's just a sure deal that the market is totally crunched. And I don't think stimulus checks would have helped much. Anybody who didn't need the money could have just took their stimulus check and put it on top of the money they had for a 3080 and said, hey, now I have truly enough money for a 3080. And to me, it's only, $700 I wanted to spend. I take the stimulus, I didn't need the money anyway, just hand it off to somebody. I'm sure there's just a ton of people that did that. And that may also be making the price go higher. But now they're talking about a 3080 Ti, which the 1080 Ti was like legendary as far as performance goes. You had a 1080 Ti 4 years ago, It was about 4 years ago, I think, 2016 or so. And then the 20 series was just more recent. I've had mine for a number of months. But wouldn't it be nice to have a 3080 Ti? But you know, there's a crunch for semiconductors for almost just about every type of consumer product that uses one is in the crunch for getting them. So cars are being stopped from being produced. I've heard people are, you know, I've read that some production lines are stopping due to not being able to get chips. And then it becomes a who's who. Like, who does get the chips? Who do we like the most? And well, there's good money and there's bad money. Will always do wonders for that situation, but there's a possibility that it's you have partners that you like better, and they might be getting those chips. I always thought, like, how did we have an administration that was wanting to do things more American under the roof of America? How did we not get a semiconductor? I think there was plans, but I mean, you don't hear any talk about it. Maybe it's hush hush. I don't know. Um, I I don't see how that wasn't on the forefront of the entire thing. I mean, they're just machines that run autonomously. I don't think there's a whole lot to do other than I think taxes come into play, and the logistics of getting work that's dedicated to the job and can do the job. But a lot of it is machinery that they're just buying. They're just buying machinery that's produced by companies, and then they're putting them in these clean warehouses or whatever, these production facilities. And so yeah, there's like a crunch, and TSMC is actually building onto their current factory. They bought land, they bought machines, and they're going to expand their production capacity. So that's neat, but honestly it would be kind of cool if they got a competitor, because all of these companies that say they're competing for your dollar, MSI and Gigabyte and all of that, Xbox, PS5, they're all getting their chips a lot of times from similar factories or the same one, and they're competing for production time. But that's only competing to get their product made. They're not competing against each other on efficiency and costs of getting it made. They're just standing in line. It's kind of like, you know, there's people standing at a pizza shop, and one guy's ordering pepperoni and cheese, and the other person's ordering just cheese is a little bit cheaper, and they're saying, we're going to sell them to you, and we're going to compete. But it's like, hey, you bought that at the same pizza shop. What we're trying to say is, I mean, what I'm saying is, wouldn't it be nice if they were to compete in a different way, say like two different pizza shops where customer service and the taste and the cost and how fast and how fresh and the boxing materials and smile and all of that comes into play, rather than just people standing in line at a pizza shop trying to resell the pizzas. So I don't know. I don't know what the political logistics are. It could be really deep. I don't know. But, you know, I mean, there's just things you don't even want to talk about. Like if something was to be bombed, would you want it to be in your country? You know, I think that's partially of what some of it is, the liability of it all. You have this huge factory that makes these things, and do you want it in your backyard, really? I guess. I don't know. I can't see why you wouldn't just, you know, call Elon Musk and get into the side of a mountain and put in some machines that make semiconductors. Now, it's very possible that they're there and we're just not told, because we'd blab about it on the internet, you know. I mean, look at all of our presidents. All they ever say is, we're number one, we have to stay number one, we have to import everything that we've ever wanted and not understand how it's made very well. But we have to teach the entire world at our colleges and then have them whip us at our own, what we're good at, and we'll teach them faster than we can teach our own people. We'll hate on our own people when they try to learn something and make them try to call them a retard in front of their friends, but then we're going to bring people in from other countries and teach them to compete with this country, you know. So the 3080 is welcome technology, don't get me wrong, but you just got to wonder what other kind of improvements we could get alongside the better graphics, because honestly it is better, but a lot of times you're just playing a little bit higher resolution or a little bit higher frame rate. And I can see that if I had a 3080, I would play a few games of this and I'd say, man, that was the same game. Like, then you're just looking at developers. You have this wonderful new performance, but then you're going back to the same old developers with the same old, you know, if you play Deus Ex, I've been playing that recently, you have the same motion capture where they're kind of doing this, you know, kind of rudimentary motion capture. It's overly exaggerated. I guess it's supposed to keep it interesting. It's not horrible, but sometimes it's a little bit much. So you're paying super high top dollar to see that at a higher frame rate. I mean, if it's what makes you feel good and that's what you like, then that's fine. I can see it. But $700 is a lot better price for that than $2,500. And I mean, I think that some of these video game companies or TSMC should be getting the cash. How is it that they're selling them for $700 and then people are reselling them for $2,500? I mean, that's neat and all for the person that's selling it, and that's reflects supply and demand, and that's the way oil is and everything else. But at what point does a person give that money to the company that produced such an item? I mean, they're very, very sophisticated pieces of technology for today. In 20 years, it'll be a paperweight. They'll say, you know, that's neat, and we'll put it in the Smithsonian, but, you know, in 20 years, it's going to be laughed at. I mean, not laughed at, but it won't be, you wouldn't even be able to mine Bitcoin with it. And that's another thing, is all these GPUs are being bought up to mine Bitcoin, which I don't blame you if you can make money off of it, you know. I had thought about turning mine on, but I have a lot of sensitive information on my computer, and I don't really, I mean, it's not real sensitive, but it's just, am I going to pay $4 a day to have one more person possibly be screwing up my computer? I've had a number of computers get screwed with, and it seems like every time, it's kind of like, they call it a virus for a reason. It's almost like everything you do on there, you're kind of taking a chance a bit, you know. So this is neat. They have off-road here. Well, he went flying. They have another kind of like a mud paddle vehicle with mud paddles on it. It was pretty neat. It's like a monster truck. This is like halfway there. This is more like a Baja truck. This game's simple enough. I haven't played it with a wheel. But yeah, it would be really nice to have a 3080, 3080 Ti, 3090, any of that stuff would be really cool. But to afford it, you almost have to mine. And that's what people, I think, are doing, is they're adding the cost that you can make with mining. It's like, you know, I'll sell it to you, but I'm going to be giving up $10 a day plus the cost of it. So they give them the cost of it and $10 a day and $500 for a pat on the back. And they're $2,500 on eBay. But they're just a little bit better. Like, I think if you had one, you'd go, wow, I can put my settings up high and I still get a decent frame rate. And then you'd play the game and you go, you know what, this is the same games. All my games on Steam are the same. You'd be expecting, like, all of a sudden, like the sky to open up and angels come down or something, but it's like, hey, this is just the same games I already had with a higher frame rate. A little bit nicer. Like, I was playing with the settings on Deus Ex, and I was looking at it in 1080p, and I was like, you know, just like 4 or 5 years ago, 1080p was the holy grail. It was like, can you get 1080p 60? and I put it on 1080p and it looked fine. Like I had it on 4K and it was just barely getting to 60 FPS. So I put it on 1800p and it was holding 60 and it looked really good at 1800p. But it was a lot like 1080p. It was a little clearer. It had a little sharper image. And you know, it depends on your monitor. And my display, I'm using a PX747 4K pixel shift projector. So that's in a lot of people's minds kind of a gray area as far as 4K goes. But I like it quite a bit. You know, I've said it before, it's kind of like the half step to VR. Sometimes I get into VR and I can't even see it, it's so foggy. After having played on the projector, VR doesn't seem a whole lot more immersive sometimes. Which is cool if you have a group of people with you, you're sitting back with your girlfriend, you can have a big experience. It's not 3D, but it's immersive still to have something so big, you know, 10-foot screen. And if it's running in so-called 4K 60, then that's not too bad. I can barely see. This is like so foggy and I have some lights in my face, so making it tough. So some of those things I was just talking about, they're a little controversial and then people may have mixed opinions about it, and I understand that. But hey, we're allowed to talk about it. It's the products we're buying, and we're allowed to kind of root for ourselves a little bit, I think. If you're trying to land a job on Craigslist, no one has a problem with you rooting for yourself. And if that job was to make chips, you'd have to call it quits, because we don't do that here, you know. There may be companies that I don't know about. Now there's Samsung, and there's TSMC, and there's probably some others. But what a specialized thing. If you're making computer chips, that's so specialized, it's so tiny, and you have to polish the silicon. I've seen them I've watched a lot on the internet, you know, Discovery Channel and how it's made and things like that, and you see them come from the raw ore, like, and cut slivers off of it or however, and it's really specialized top to bottom. It's really there's just nothing. So what most people think of when they think of technology. When you think of technology, what do you think of? You think of the semiconductor. And we're buying them like crazy with every phone. Every 2 years we get a new phone because the whole thing wears out. Because we're on them all day and it wears out. And people don't go in there and take the semiconductor out of it. They just go, hey, that's a piece of garbage. A lot of the phones, the battery is a one-time use battery. It's soldered in there and behind plastic. And once that goes, they want you to get a new phone. That's part of the deal. There's probably some salvage operations that could make some use of some of it. Maybe they could get the gold out of it, or maybe they could get that CPU. But the time to buy a 3080 or a 3080 Ti is right after they launch the 4000 series, and everybody thinks there's going to be stock enough to go around. I wish I had known, but I watched 2080 Ti's go down to $400 for about 36 hours, right after the 3000 series, and he said faster than a 2080 Ti for $500. And people put their 2080 Ti's on eBay for $400 and $350. I mean, maybe they had a bad display port or something along those lines. I don't know. I didn't exactly go in and check, but I got my card for $350, and that was kind of after the fact, after things kind of started coming back up. And now I could get $700 for it. Or I could turn it on to mine and make $4 a day. It's tempting. It's not a lot, but it's $4 a day, you know. And if you just put it into a jar, and next time there's some computer parts available, you can get some. But I haven't mind. I guess it's easy. You just get on there. There's Few companies. One that sticks out is Nice Hash. Guess they're nice about it. Although I think they scammed some people, or there was a misunderstanding. I don't know. I wasn't there, but they say it's the easiest one, and it'll kind of streamline the process and make it easy. And maybe they have good advertising, or a lot of people talking about it on the internet. But you know, if gaming is your thing, like $2,500 to have the best in your arena of things that you like, and I can see why. Like, it takes a while for games. It's like tea time. I know that sounds weird, but I don't think people really talk about it. They just say I like it, and that's just as far as they go. But I had gotten away from it for a number of years, and then I got back in, and it's enjoyable. Just games like this are fun. You know you're not gonna get anything out of it. You know you're not gonna make any money off of it. But you gotta set aside time for R&R, and I'm actually enjoying Deus Ex right now. I didn't play Cyberpunk. I don't know, I'm just thinking I won't really like it. It's kind of like, seems like it's for a younger generation, or I don't know. I don't want to say anything because I don't want to offend anyone. But I was just thinking maybe I wouldn't like it. But Deus Ex, it seems a little bit more my speed, although there's not a whole lot of gunplay, which is fine. I actually don't mind. Wow, I can't even see. How am I going to get through a game I can't see where I'm going? That's crazy. How do they expect me to play that? If I didn't have lights on my face, I could probably see where I was going. Barely. Oh my gosh. Almost want to just skip this one. You just can't see. There's like a dust storm. Looks like it's blowing over. Wow. But in 2 years, will the 3080 be king of the hill? Not in the slightest. And the thing is people have had that for, some people have had it for a number of months now. And the 3080 Ti is going to come out. Some of these other ones are going to come out, but they're kind of late. And the next series is going to come out. I'm not sure what their nomenclature will be, if it'll be 4000. But that series will come out, and the 3080, if you buy it late in the cycle, then the new one is going to kick its butt and devalue it faster than ever. So you might get 6 months, and then it'll be devalued. So this is no good. I don't like this level. Whoever designed this level needs to be fired. It's cool to have some obstacles, but if you can't see through it, and you can't tell if you're going the right way, it's not worth playing. Like, wow, look at how good those graphics are, but I can't see anything. Maybe if I was in a dark room with a monitor, I'd be able to see. But right now, this is just a complaint. I guess that was a sandstorm. Still is. It's trying to be Microsoft Flight Simulator here. Not quite. Wonder if they use the same programming to get that cloud. Been playing a little bit of VR, and I got VTOL VR finally. I've been looking at it, and it's been staring at me. It's been $29 all the time, and I've just bought it straight up because I heard it's worth it. And the game is really good. Like, it's really good. It has that VR feel where they got the menus right for VR. You know, those big buttons and simplistic. But it's a little bit like Microsoft Flight Simulator or DCS World, but it's simplified. Like, you have an on-off switch, you have your magneto, and you know, there's the things you have to do are there. There's no extra switches. Like on Microsoft Flight Simulator, they might have a whole bunch of switches, but you have to know which 8 to press. They just have all 8 big buttons. It's kind of like a big button controller for the remote. I don't know if you've seen that for like a TV, and it's for like people that just want a big button remote or a big button calculator. It's kind of like that, except those are the buttons in the VR cockpit. And everything's motion control, so you actually close the cockpit and the noise changes when you're inside from outside, and you can always eject by pulling this thing between your legs, and you have motion controls, and you can grab this the stick and put it where you want it. You press, I forgot how it works, but it has like 4 axes, and you can put it where you want it. So if you're in an armchair, you can put it where you can just rest your arm and then center it there, and then you can use it. It's well thought out. It's like they made it and then they refined it, and they ran it by people and they tried it, and you can tell that it was a labor of love. It actually came out really good. The only thing is, the first mission, I'm flying along and I'm going through these mountains, and then I just get hit with missiles. You just hear beep, 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 pow, and that's it. So I think you have to put countermeasures, but it's not like a fighting game or a gun game where you have a lot of different interactions. It's just like they shot a missile and you can do countermeasures and wait and see if that worked. Other than that, you're going down, which may be the reality of it. But they have like a hovering, like a helicopter style VTOL vehicle. I forgot what it's called, but I think it's kind of made up. But they also have one that's like a jet, and it's kind of like an F-35. And it was a little bit hard to figure out. They have this liftoff system where you have to like wiggle the stick a little bit, and then it'll start taking off. But if you haven't done it, you don't know what to expect. So after you've done it a few times, you know what it's going to do, but it just kind of goes forward and up at the same time. So it's kind of like thrust directed down and away, and you go forward and up. So you can take off slower, but it's still kind of a forward thing. And you can nose up and basically hover, but it doesn't feel like it's made for that. It's just kind of made to go 10 miles an hour and come off the ground and start getting up to speed. And then once you're going 100 miles an hour or something, then you can just go forward thrust. But the game's awesome. It's really smooth. And that's another thing, is the graphics. I only have the 2070 Super, but it's super smooth on my headset, and it's still crisp. Like, I'm still running super sampling 1.5, and it's the Cosmos, so it's 1700 by 1400 or so. But the game's worth it. Mainly due to the frame rate. And it's just nice to have a flight simulator that has a decent frame rate, and then the big button calculator style to it, and then the really good physics, and it really feels and sounds like you're in a jet. And you can see that they really weighed the landscape, how it was going to look and what it was going to cost, and they wanted to be sure that people were getting the higher frame rates. Because sometimes I look at my headset and it just makes me sick a little bit. It's not always, I have a strong stomach for it, but sometimes I just look at it and I go, I don't want to do that. But games like VTOL VR, they don't, if you think about how it's going to feel when you get in there, you're like, yeah, I'll do that. But some of these games like Microsoft Flight Simulator, they're very detailed and it's totally worth it, but at the same time, I only get 18 frames a second. So that's where that 3090 and the 3080 come in, and they would kick me up to 30 frames a second, which would still be slow. I mean, in the Smithsonian in 200 years, the 2070 Super and the 3080 are going to be looked at like the same thing. It's not going to be different. Although for today's games, that's the thing, you're always playing this moment's games. The top game right now, say this for Microsoft Flight Simulator, there's a lot of people that can't play it right now. But if you have the highest graphics card available, then you get the best playing experience for the games that are out now. You can always go back 10 years and get a sweet 4K 60 out of old games, but you know, Halo 3 looks like Halo 3. Everything's blocky. They didn't have the motion capture right. You know, their faces are just blocks. This thing wants to spin out. But look at these graphics. And this is on the Xbox One X. Looks even better on my computer. Although very similar. Similar situation. A little bit better, but was it worth it? That's where the consoles are just going for the best bang. But they get you on the games. Like on Steam, you get games for $5, $10, $20, $30. You have to wait till they want to give them to you. Like I think they have bills coming up, and they go, "Hey, go do a quick Steam sale." This thing really wants to spin out. It's like taking a Ferrari through a bog, though. Like who does that? This game is interesting visually, though. Like even if you don't like the racing aspect, if you can keep it in the center of the road and just watch what goes by, it's like cruising USA on steroids. It's really pretty fun and enjoyable. We got the visuals pretty good. But anyway, that was like 5 tracks. That's probably all I really need to go. If you made it this far, I just wanted to invite you to go ahead and shop at my eBay store, GB Hatchery. I have all kinds of used items, clothing, shoes, household items, sporting goods. And sometimes they're discounted deeply, and sometimes they're really nice, and I just listed them, and they're going to go to the first person that sees them. So if you want to, you can just check out that link in the description. I'll leave that there. Other than that, I hope you're safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video.